Before we start this video, I would just like to mention the two prominent sources that I used for my research besides the official Vanguard lore website. Without them, this video wouldn't see the light of day due to how much information is contained within this storyline. The first goes to redditor Nikoness. They post a lot of translated unit lore for the community that comes from the Japanese Vanguard website, making it easier for people to digest. The second one goes to the Cray Adventurer website, which provides a lot of the unit lore that hasn't been released yet in English. If you're looking for more detailed and coherent information on Vanguard lore, please go check them out. Also, I would like to apologize if there is any misinformation or missing information, as the lore is scattered and I might not have it in the chronological timeline. In the future, I hope to cover this storyline again, or to see someone cover this storyline properly. So, let's begin. A starry meteor shower covers planet Cray. Unbeknownst to the other nations, a dark and malevolent force known as an entity called Gryphicid has silently entered Cray's atmosphere. Although its origins can't be identified, the Gryphicid is a living seed that thrives on the energy of malice. With its arrival taking place in the aftermath of the Youth Rebellion against Bastion, the Gryphicid was able to grow stronger by feeding on this conflict, while hiding its body in guise and bay. Consumed by an insatiable greed for limitless power and goal to absorb all living things and for their energy, the Gryphicid malice grows into the first Dragontree. It now names itself the Dragontree Ecliptic Decimation Gryphogila, which is a mouthful to say. Nonetheless, before it takes the offensive against the other nations, Gryphogila uses its newfound strength and begins spreading chaos by creating two different forces: the Wretches and the Seeds. For the Wretches, they are direct offsprings of the Dragontree that also act as scouts. With no real form, these animalistic creatures are able to mimic the shapes and forms of various species on planet Cray. Think of them as dittos, or your twin, or your evil edgy self that you made up in 8th grade. On the other hand, these seeds manifest themselves as masks, which are bestowed upon those who desire power, further advancing the Gryphicid's dark agenda. Back to the main story, how did the Gryphicid grow unnoticed for so long? Turns out, it began with Leonor and the marching band, who were the first to witness its presence. However, they didn't seem overly concerned at the time. There was also the Dragon Jeweled, who did take this threat seriously because he was driven by his haunting nightmares. He does urge his friend Bruce to search for the Gryphicid, but after locating it and underestimating its power, the Jeweled falls victim to the mask's corrupting influence. Meanwhile, in Keter, there are prophets like Solryron and Hexorb trying to foretell the beginning of the end. Yet, since their predictions were extremely vague, they didn't actually know what the threat would look like.
Impossible to see.
Okay, the first believed to join the Dragontree were Zorga and Orphis. United by their belief in the prophesized end foretold by the Messiah cards, Zorga becomes the military strategist and Orphis a commanding general. Next to fall under the Dragontree's influence is Omina Gruzio. After her species was decimated by the Abyss Dragon, she seizes an area known as High King's Landing and decimates all of them by consuming the mask's power straight into her body. Since High King's Landing is part of the Stoicheia nation, the Dragontree's influence expands as Omina coerces her old friend Leonor to join her. Following suit, Omina Gruzio invades the lands of Stoicheia, and Magnolia is also forced to surrender. At the same time this was happening, Zorga and Orphis had their own missions. Zorga seeks out and successfully persuades Gridon and Almagistar, offering them the masks in exchange for power. Then the Cardinal Orphis overwhelms Queen Garvidia's army and nest and coerces her to join them as well. So, if we look at the prominent members of the Dragontree army, we have Demonic Jewel Dragon Drajeweld, Grand March of the Fullbloom Leonor, Mysterious Rain Spiritus Zorga, Cardinal Adus Orphis, Almagistar Astroia Unica, Avaricious Demonic Dragon Gridon, Evil Eye Dragon Omnia Gruzio, and Gravidia Nordlinger. Damn. Although without losing their egos and Gryphogila assuring the mask members that they could leave anytime that they wanted, this was actually a deceitful lie. Now, the mask's initial encounter occurs when the World Band has a planned performance at the World Tree in the Dark States. Flame Priestess Rino, Trickstar, Gilmira, and the Surprise Egg travel with the Tenzin Dragons to witness this spectacle. During the trip, Rino notices something strange about her friend Leonore, which leads to a confrontation and a direct battle. Luckily, with the power of friendship, Leonore is able to return to her original state. While she does report on the power of the Dragontree, it's already too late. The signs of the World Tree withering are apparent, and so the invasion begins. At the Cater Sanctuary gates, Bruce has just saved Euthric from a corrupted Almagistar. In the west part of Storia, it has just been taken over and conquered by the great Omnia Gruzio. And at the Red Dawn Manor, which is said to be impenetrable, the Tenzin Dragons and Blaze Priestess, which had just returned, had gotten trapped in the future due to Griffogilla's space-time warping abilities. As darkness looms in on the horizon, the leaders of each nation decide to form an alliance to stop the invasion of the Dragontree. They establish their base aboard the Aegis Lubetzel mothership carrier, which is generously funded by their ally Welstra. It's probably important for the future.
I am the chosen one.
The gathering includes Youthberg, Bastion, Welstra, J.K. Sakat, and Bruce as they plan out their counterattack while waiting for the Holy Maiden and her forces to return. For the Mask's army, Drajul is the first to be dispatched and faces off against Youthberg in a duel. With the help of Bruce, they're able to score a second defeat on a Masked leader, though this comes with the cost of Drajul's life, making it the sole major death of this war. Sequentially, Almagistar Mask was waiting for an opportunity and ambushes the weakened Youthberg. However, Drajul did bestow Youthberg a special rainbow crystal at the end of their fight. So in a crucial moment, Youthberg transforms into his new Revel form, known as Full Blast, and defeats Unica. Elsewhere, a reformed Leonore returns to aid Omnia Gruzio. With the great power of friendship, Omnia is convinced to let go of her mask. As for Magnolia, Bruce, Sakat, and the awesome almighty Pineapple Hero destroy the beast's masks in a test of strength. Meanwhile, the frontline defense force is barely holding on, with Bastion being asked by Zorga to surrender. Bastion refuses, of course, which leads to a brawl over the sea currents. The knight emerges victorious, and Zorga's mask is the next to be destroyed. Realizing the mask's corruption had taken a hold of him even without him wearing it, Zorga vanishes into the sea below. The tides begin to turn, and somehow the Tenzin Dragons, Rino, and her crew are able to return safely. I don't think this part is actually mentioned in the Unilords and on how they escaped, but if you do know about it, please comment below. With Rhino Lily's help, she turns into Bavsargra and defeats Gravidia in a duel. And for our lucky boy Greedon, who sponsors Bruce's team, Diabolos, he gives his mask willingly with his signature on it. The final battle takes place when Trickstar, Rino, and the Surprise Egg team locate the Dragontree's base at Guise and Bay. But with so much time passing, a mysterious hole suddenly erupts from the sea. A gigantic figure emerges, transforming the Griffogilla into its true form. Supreme Dragontree of Annihilation, Griffogilla Vartex. As kind of a one last test, Orifice launches a surprise attack on Reno and her comrades using an Abyss Dragon. They are able to overcome it, yet Orifice afterwards is nowhere to be seen. With no obstacles left to stand in their way, Chakrabarti's team has a final showdown against Vartex, who's almost as big as the planet Kree themselves. The power of hope allows Trickstar to fuse with the blazing Heavenly Dragon to become the blazing Holy Sword equipped Star Verena and slay the Dragontree once and for all. As the war comes to a close, a new seed is discovered and entrusted to Trickstar, heralding a brighter future for the world of planet Kree. Though most of the masks have fallen, a few pieces of it remain, perhaps waiting to be claimed by others in future encounters.